This is Skip Hank, President and CEO of Xplore International. At Xploration 16, the Evolving Trends track was one of the best attended and most informative tracks of the event. Analysts and consultants focused on the trends and changing dynamics of the customer communications industry. And due to popularity of the track, several analysts agreed to an encore performance and agreed to record the presentation from the event. Those presentations is highlights from our annual State of the Customer Engagement Technologies Research by David Stabel, Associate Director at InfoTrends. He heads up the Customer Engagement Technologies Advisory Service, focusing on the customer communications management landscape, as well as on technology and best practices that drive better customer experiences and engagements. He is also responsible for consulting with clients, conducting market research and analysis, forecasting market sizing and growth, and providing coverage of industry events in relationship to customer communications management and customer engagement solution markets. David frequently speaks at trade shows, customer events, and industry conferences. So without further ado, I'd like to hand the podium over to David.
Thanks, Skip. Thanks for this this very nice introduction. And again, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to talk here about our research in the field of customer communication management and engagement-related technologies. So, what I did, I built up this presentation in three parts, and I would like to start first to look at some key market dynamics we see in the industry and that drive change and innovation within the customer communication technology space. And then I want to move over into a second part where I would like to talk about some of the key highlights of the research we are doing in this space, and also discuss how these insights and trends that we see fit into these market dynamics. And in the last part, I will round off with some key takeaways of which I would like you to take with you and to think about after this this webinar. So let me start. In 54, Peter Drucker wrote a famous book on management called The Practice of Management. I'm not sure if everybody knows this book. It's already a long time ago, but until that time the concept of management did not really exist yet. So many consider Peter Drucker therefore to be the founder of management as we know it today, and also as we live it today. And in one particular part of this book, Peter Drucker is writing about the goal of a business, and he defines this goal as being to create and to keep customers. Now, that doesn't really sound very enlightening, as I mean, this is still one of the key issues today, and this still holds very true today. But in 54, it most probably was very enlightening. But if we think of it now, we can identify basically a few key differences between the time that Peter Drucker wrote this book and now. So first, today we know a whole lot more about how communications work, how to use communications, how we can use that to drive behavioral change in people, in our consumers, as well as our customers, and how not to communicate, how worst practices are for customer communication, so you better do not do that. Second, the rapid growth of the internet and mobile adoption by consumers has created a whole new ecosystem for communications. So there are many more ways to communicate today than there was back in 54. And finally, another key difference is that the data available today allows us and allows enterprises to know many more details of customers down to the individual level. So customers at a certain point become much more transparent to the enterprise. And this transparency makes it possible to communicate very effective and with very hyper-targeted messages. So taking this all together, we conclude that although the customer still is central in any business strategy, the whole environment in which we communicate and in which we employ our customer communications has become a whole lot more complicated as they were back in 54. And as a consequence, marketers are forced to find and explore new ways to attract and keep customers. This is increasingly difficult as customers are taking over the driver's seat of the conversation. Customers getting more powerful in the dialogue they are having with the enterprise. And in our research, we ask enterprises in key verticals like financial services, like telecoms, or like enterprises active in healthcare services. We ask them who is responsible for CCM today within your organization. And we see here on the left side, the pie chart on the left, that today it is the CEO for 1/3 of US enterprises who are saying the CIO is taking this responsibility. And 1 out of 5 US enterprises responded that the CMO is taking this responsibility. So basically, to test our hypothesis that marketing is getting a more important play into this into the CCM space, we added a second question where we asked respondents how they think that this CMO role, the Chief Marketing Officer role, will evolve over time. And we see that a vast majority of almost 90% of the respondents that answered this question is convinced that the CMO will be more influential when it comes to customer communication management within their organizations. And it is also interesting to see, and I'm looking now here to the right pie chart, it is also interesting to see that of these 90%, we can see one camp that thinks that this influence this bigger influencer's role of the CMO has a more advisory role. It's more of an advisory nature. While there's another camp who think it's more a decisive role. It's more of a decisive nature, that the CMO is really owner of making the final decisions in this space. But either way, the Chief Marketing Officer will become more influential as she seeks to cultivate individual customer relationships. And as a means for cultivating these relationships, enterprises are using customer journeys as a key business tool to manage their customer experiences. Using customer journeys is nothing new, but in this case, its use has a very specific objective. The enterprises are using customer journey mapping to get control back over the conversation by taking a facilitating role in that conversation. So you could talk about a shift from using customer journeys as a tool to understand the point of interactions between the enterprise and the customer, to a tool to control these interactions and to get back into the driver's seat again. So the enterprises can gain control back over the conversation with the customer. So you could also think of it as shifts from a more reactive way towards a more proactive way towards customer communications. And that is what this slide is about. This is a picture taken from an article of the Harvard Business Review late last year, and in this great article, which I, by the way, recommend you to read, it is describing how you can use highly relevant customer communications gained through data analytics to avoid customers to go back to the acquisition loop of the customer journey again. So the trick here is to, instead of estimating what the customer's next step in the journey will be, to determine what the best next step for the customer is, and make sure that the customer stays within the retention loop. So again, you take over a facilitating role into that conversation, and you make sure that the customer keeps or stays within the retention loop, or as they call it here in the article, the loyalty loop. And this makes sense because acquiring a customer is still more expensive than keeping a customer. Another dynamic I want to briefly discuss here is, and that drives the innovation in the CCM technology space, is related to the number of legal and regulation related rules that is affecting businesses globally. So these rules have exploded over recent years, as we all know and probably also all feel by our or within our professional lives, and that will most probably continue to do so. And here I took a slide from a keynote at OpenText Innovation Tour, which I attended earlier this year, and I actually like this slide because it puts the term regulatory compliance in relation to customer communication manager in perspective, right? It's yeah, a highly defragmented space where you need to take care of. And if you think of this, new and disruptive technologies and trends such as big data or bring your own device, social media, cloud computing, all these disruptive technologies are introducing concerns about fraud, about data security, and on top of that, we also have the phenomenon of Internet of Things that will introduce a new wave of personalized and sensitive data to be generated over the years to come. So this existing and additional data will require businesses to increasingly manage governance, risk, as well as compliance. And this, I think, this is a play for customer communications technology. So key resources and stakeholders need to be identified, need to be empowered, need to be supported. Technology needs to support different business roles, like who is the content owner, frontline employees, as well as who is the end customers. So technology infrastructures also need to be optimized and solutions need to be implemented to support security and reliable operations. And if I look back to our research, our respondents within the research is telling that they are struggling with that. So to put that into a number, like each fifth enterprise in the US is struggling with this, is struggling with compliance and regulatory issues. Another market dynamic is the diversity of expertise required and the increasing diversity of expertise, I must say, required for today's successful customer communication management. And today's customer communication management goes way beyond traditional document composition. So Skip already mentioned that this presentation, I gave this presentation at the Xploration earlier in April. And as I was traveling to that conference early in April, I was reading through the conference guide on the airplane, and I found this particular picture of NEPs, which I think is right on spot for the points I'm trying to make here. And that is businesses today must master different technology areas related to data management, related to operational control, and that are all areas, if you think of it, that are highly impacted by the digitalization. I put here some challenges around that in the balloons that come from our research, because our research tells us that enterprises are having difficulty across these areas of expertise when it comes to their customer communication and implementations. So many of these difficulties are not new, but we are still solving old or similar problems that have been around for a long time. So if we stay with that thought of having a document composition as a starting point, so if we take document composition technology as a starting point to explain technology innovation within the CCM space as we see it, we can draw up let's call it an innovation map as we see here on the slide. So starting from what I would call traditional CCM in the lower left corner, meaning with traditional CCM, I mean technology strongly centered around document composition, you can now go different ways. So a first direction would be that you can now go innovating your product, existing product, build around that compositioning technology and expand it with additional new capabilities addressing the current market you currently are in. So it's typically a product diversification strategy applied here. So vendors choosing this route typically aim to automate and control the complete print operation process. So we see solutions here and technology innovations in the area of print workflow automations, in the area of automated document factories or ADFs. But you can also choose to innovate through markets, to new markets, entering new markets with different product variants. So we see vendors doing this, and I'm talking now about here going straight up, so to say, from the left lower corner up to the left upper corner. So we see this by vendors offering solutions addressing business users within the enterprise. So the new market is then the wider enterprise market. And if you would do both, and that's the upper right corner, you basically innovate your product portfolio and diversify into new markets. And this is also a development we see going on within the CCM industry, where technology developments in this specific area are addressing customer experience management, customer engagement management. We also see here more customer journey mapping. So I'm come to that, or we already spoke about that a little bit, but also business process automation. It's also a take that vendors are taking here. So I think all in all, there are a lot of things going on within the CCM market over the recent years, a lot of exciting stuff, a lot of new developments, and also with those new developments also come new opportunities. So in our research, we wanted to get a better understanding of these developments and of course backed by quantitative and qualitative data. So to talk a little bit about the background of the research, we designed our research to capture insights into business strategy, insights into investment outlook and market trends. We also want to understand specifically how customer experience and customer engagement fits within to the CCM discussion. And in the next slides, I would like some of the findings from our research with you. But before I do that, let me briefly stand still at the demographics of the respondents we had in our research sample. So we researched enterprises across key CCM industries that we see here listed: telecoms, utilities, insurance, healthcare services, financial services, and also within governments. We did that across North America, meaning US and Canada, as well as some key Western Europe economies. So we have UK included, the Netherlands, Germany, France, and Italy. And if we look at some of the respondents' demographic here at the lower charts here, we see a very nice division of over industries as well as over the job roles that we have included. So we had people working in IT, people working in operations, which include print operations, people working in marketing strategy, and then we had a bucket where we put all others in, like financial departments, people working in legal departments, etc. So I think all in all a very valuable set of respondents that we have here, as well as a very nice distribution. One point I would like to highlight here, that this year research we are doing, we are expanding the research to Latin America. So we are also in 2016 we will also have quantitative and qualitative data for Latin America. So having said that, let us look at some of the key highlights here. So one of the first questions in our research is for the main is to identify the main business objectives of enterprises for investing in CCM technology. So we have had a long list of objectives within our questionnaire that we can categorize in 3 key areas, as I did here in the charts that we see on the slide. So we have customer engagement related objectives, we have risk reduction related objectives, as well as process efficiency and optimization related objectives. And it's very clear from the results to see here, and in this particular case we see the results of US enterprises, but we see a similar trend when we look at European enterprises. It's very clear that enterprises invest in CCM technology to improve customer engagement and to better do customer experience management. So that's clearly the priority number 1. And at the second point, we have then issues like cost and risk reduction, as well as streamlining and optimizing communication processes, which does not necessarily mean that the second priority is meaning it's a low priority. It's still an important aspect, but it's very clear that at number 1, it's all about customer engagement and customer experience. And by doing that, I mean, if you see, if you do that, it clearly pays off, as we see. I took here a chart where we see basically the impact on stock value or stock performance. In this case, spanning an entire economic cycle. So we talk here about 2007, the pre-recession year, to a post-recession year here in 2014. And this chart basically shows the difference in stock value of S&P 500 companies that have been calculated for companies with different rankings of the so-called customer experience index, which is an index which expresses if a company is performing well on customer experience or is not performing well on customer experience. And the result that we see here is that those companies where we refer to as customer experience leaders have more than doubled their stock value over this time frame of 2007 to 2014, which is pretty impressive, I must say, because if you look at the average performance of the S&P 500, it comes at a 72% improvement, which also still is a quite impressive number there. And then at the total right, we see then, let's say, the companies that are performing the worst according to the customer experience index, the so-called laggards, and they are way behind even the average of the S&P 500 stock performance. So it's very interesting to see, and also to conclude basically that having that priority on customer engagement and customer experience clearly pays off for enterprises on the long term. Another interesting point here. So coming back again to our research. In our research, we also ask US enterprises here 2 questions about the time they need or the time that is required to make small or significant changes. And on the slide you see some examples of what we define as small changes or what we define as big or significant changes. And we see that the implementation times on average vary from 3 to 8 months according to in this case to the US the responses of US enterprises. So this is pretty significant. It's a long time, and why is it taking so long? Would be the next logical question, right? So the research shows, and also when we talk with people within enterprises, the reasons are all about getting stakeholder consensus in case of introducing changes. There are IT capacity constraints that you cannot go around. Collecting the requirements, getting the requirements clear, getting the right requirements on the table is difficult. A lot of stakeholders are involved. Again, alignment processes take time. Especially if we talk about changes in legal or documents or policies, they require approval. That is typically also a lengthy process. So that are all reasons that we hear from respondents why we are looking here at a time frame from 3 until 8 months. At the same time, we must realize that CCM today is not just about technology. It's also about people, and it's also about processes. So we refer to this as what we call the CCM Center of Excellence. So in 2013, we did an in-depth study towards the implementation challenges of CCM implementation challenges at the enterprises, and this was one concept that we have been working out based on that study and the insight from that study, where we start talking about having a CCM Center of Enterprise, CCM Center of Excellence, which in essence is a dedicated group within an organization, either a formal group, an informal group, either a group in terms of a specific department, or a group in terms of a project team. But it's dedicated to all aspects of customer communication management, and we see that in this case, like the majority, with 61% of U.S. enterprises, they say yes, we have that, we have that practice in place, we have that so-called CCM Center of Excellence in place, though in different forms, at the production level, at the business unit level, or even at the top level at corporate level. So there is a variation, but there is a practice in place where CCM expertise is being bundled, and that's I think that's very important to have that in place. And then also when we look at in terms of centralizing communication, because that's also a part of the discussion. Then, if you're going to bundle that expertise, that's some other questions we have in our research, which reveal some interesting insights here. So, if we look at what kind of tools and those enterprises use to centralize their customer communications, our data indicates that CRM, or customer relationship management systems, are the most popular tools for centralizing communications, but that enterprises are also looking more downstream to output management or for centralizing their customer communications. So, in other words, I think there is no one right way to do this, right? So you need to look at what is my technology landscape in place, what is the best way to deal with this, the best way to bundle my expertise, both from technology perspective as well as from a people and process perspective. And if I come back now to the two questions about the document change and the time to do that, and we take those respondents that said, yeah, we have a center of excellence in place, and we look at their times that they mentioned to us that those changes would take, we see a significant reduction, basically, especially when the changes are big and require a lot of effort. So I think there's a lot of turnarounds or shorter turnarounds, and these turnarounds translate into time savings and therefore into money. So having a CCM Center of Excellence in place definitely pays off. Let me move on to another highlight: aligning customer communications around the customer journey. And I already talked about the customer journey earlier when we discussed the Harvard Business Review article. And we also discussed the importance of, but we did not yet discuss the importance of customer communication in this. And that's the point I want to highlight here. So what we see here on the slide is InfoTrends customer journey model. And similar as with Peter Drucker that I mentioned in the beginning, we also differentiate between creating the customer, as Peter Drucker is referring to it, and we would say the customer acquisition phase, and keeping the customer, where we would say the customer retention phase. What we also see here on this slide in the blue areas are the business functions or the organizational units, or how you want to call that support each individual point of customer interaction. So that's the place where the business basically establishes its customer communications with its customer in that specific touch point. What key is for customer communications in this model, so to say, is to have the capability to allow the customer to seamlessly switch between communication channels, and those channels exist here illustrated with the red arrows between the blue areas and the outer circles in red and yellow here. So again, the capability to allow the customer to seamlessly switch between communication channels without disrupting the conversation. So that's the whole key, right? Without disrupting the conversation. And I'm basically talking here about an omni-channel strategy. And also what we see here, if we think of the role of CCM in this story, and I visualized that here by zooming out at one specific channel illustrated as a red arrow here, we see that the response management of that CCM lifecycle here, that response management step and data capture and analytics steps are fundamental for this. Those are the steps that make sure that you close the loop and make sure that you are able to continue a conversation without the need to disrupt it. So, and again, referring to a point I made earlier about new expertise you need to have for CCM today. Well, this is one example of that. You need to have capabilities to close that loop. I'm talking about data analytics is becoming a key capability you need to be able to master, for example. So looking at delivery preferences, the majority of enterprises say through our research, or we see through our research, that they are managing channel preferences mainly for the transactional communications. So but there are more types of customer communications that the enterprises are dealing with. Also, most challenges with delivery preferences can be routed back to outdated IT systems that basically simply do not have the capability to support this. They're not able to, or they don't know the concept of delivery preferences. But we see enterprises implementing delivery preferences at different locations within the technology stack. So there are enterprises that choose a more downstream approach, managing delivery preferences at the point where the actual delivery is being made. So for example, at the point where a batch of emails is being sent, for example. And you have other enterprises that might choose to look for a more upstream approach and decide to manage delivery preferences at the level where the actual communication is being created. So, and that typically would be at the application layer of their technology stack. And also an interesting point to mention here when we talk also about delivery preferences is the importance of the mobile channel. In our research, we keep tracking of different channels, including the physical channel or the print channel, and a variety of different electronic channels. And our research, specifically in the transactional communication space, show that for consumers, the mobile channel is actually a commodity. They expect to be communicated through mobile channels with their enterprise. enterprises they want to communicate with, or that enterprises communicate with them through mobile channels. However, similar research of ours also shows that these enterprises are not there yet. But they rate mobile, these enterprises rate mobile to be the most important channel for the customer communication. So they give it a high priority, and they also increasingly invest in this. So we can see that. So I basically conclude, and I think that's the interesting point I want to make here, that there is obviously a gap between the expectation level of the consumer and the state of mobile adaptation and the ability to communicate through mobile channels with that consumer. There's definitely a gap today, but there's also the fact that enterprises are definitely working hard to catch up and to make sure that they are closing that gap. So that were a few of the highlights I wanted to share with you in scope of this webinar series, and also where I've been talking about earlier at the Xploration 2016 in Orlando. So let me summarize with three key takeaways. So focusing on customer experiences will have a positive impact on the bottom line. We have seen that in the beginning of this presentation. It also means that marketers are confronted with achieving higher customer experiences and becoming basically increasingly aware that customer communications management enables them to do this. It enables them to cultivate individual customer relationships. So that and that again has a consequence that the scope of CCM of today is expanding and is growing from focusing on that customer retention phase all the way up to the front basically of the customer journey, all the way up to the customer acquisition phase. And that creates different and new opportunities, of course, for vendors and solution providers active in this space. So in order to do this successfully, aligning the customer communications around the customer journey, it is necessary to have the right technology in place that allow your customers to have a channel agnostic conversation with you. Again, without having the need to disrupt that conversation. So an omni-channel strategy and the ability to manage channel preferences is unavoidable for this scenario. And last but not least, it's not all about the technology. I mentioned it before already. Processes and people are other key ingredients to successfully align CCM around the complete customer journey. An alignment between stakeholders like IT people, marketeers, legal experts, etc. is necessary for quick turnaround times and for a sustainable use of involved resources. So I hope this was useful for you. I thank you very much for your time, for listening in. And with that, Skip, I wanted to hand it back to you.
Okay, David, thank you so much. I appreciate you being part of the Platinum Series. I appreciate you and all of our friends at InfoTrends who are big supporters of Xplore. This was particularly interesting to me because I was unable to make your presentation at Xploration 16 because I was running around doing a bunch of things. So this was very informative. So once again, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being a friend and supporter of Xplore and the industry in general. So with
thank you very much, Skip.
We will terminate the webcast, and I hope everybody enjoys.